Sláinte, evening. Thank you very much, Stephen Quinn, for pointing that out. 192 hours to go to the festival. That's not that many hours. You're making me freak out a little, slightly, very small amount, but you're making me freak out. I'm very lucky tonight. We have a very special guest. He's got a very funny, unusual title, so we're not even going to use that. We're going to make him sound even more special than what he is. Kevin Pigott, who is the star of Tullamore Dew. A lot of people would have seen his Instagram account, which I think runs really well. It's really quite smooth, smooth stuff. And yeah, we're going to talk all things Tullamore Dew tonight. And funnily enough, a lot of us are very familiar with Tullamore Dew, but probably not really either. We've kind of been brought up with Tullamore Dew. It's always been in the background. It's always been there. It's an Irish whiskey that people are certainly on the tip of your tongue. What you would say, well known, great brand. So look, let's invite Kevin Pigott onto the show. Kevin, you're okay to come in? A wee thumbs up. Ah, he's ready. Super. Evening, Kevin.
How are you, sir?
Super. Absolutely super.
What an introduction. What an introduction.
Listen.
Look, I just want the listeners to be assured that I'm a normal person just like them. I don't want to be put on a pedestal. I don't want to be. It's just getting embarrassing at this point.
It's not godlike. You're not godlike. Is that what you're saying?
Demigod. Yeah.
Demigod. Lovely.
Mm.
You've got that beautiful sweater on tonight, the hoodie. It looks honestly awesome. Jealous that I don't have a Tullamore hoodie. No
they only come in extra medium, just so you know. So you have to be quite a fluid size. Extra medium. If you ask for that in H&M, you'll have someone go for about 5 minutes and come back and then go, "What did you ask for?" And you're like, "I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible human being."
It sounds like a Mexican size. It actually sounds like it's a real size in Mexico. Excellent. And you've got a Tullamore Dew in front of you. Yeah, look, for all the guys out there, to be honest, the last Tullamore Dew, oh no, it's not the last one I drunk, that's not true. The last one I drunk was the Caribbean rum. The one prior to that was the Phoenix 55. So once you drink them, they're gone. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of gone. They don't last very long. They're very good liquids. But I've got some older stuff here. So I have this bottle here, which I think is pretty cool. Love it.
You're such a show off. Yeah.
I know, but we are using we're using a very early Tullamore Dew in the pre-1970s tasting with Finn O'Connor as well. So, and we did one last year, and it's nice to go back. But I think what I've mentioned to yourself and what I've mentioned to John Quinn is very specific. Let's look at Tullamore as a future brand. You've got a legacy brand here. A very well-known, statement, which is, give every man his due. Everyone has that opinion. It's got those beautiful emblems of Ireland. You've got the beautiful dog symbols. You've got the harp. These are big symbols of Irish whiskey of Ireland, and you've managed in a very short space of time recently to really puncture into different parts of the world with the brand. Yeah,
absolutely.
So you've taken on America big time. I mean, I think everyone in America. Now, I don't know the sales and ins and outs of it, but I presume you're on par with the likes of Jameson in terms of its its appearance, and with Bushmills and its appearance, if not more than, So I'm assuming that Tullamore Dew is visualizing across the states as something which is synopsis with Irish whiskey. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've a long way to go in the US. I think we're in 42,000 bars, but I think Jameson's in 160-something thousand. So we're nothing on them. We're picking up crumbs, and we'll get fat eating on those crumbs, being honest with you. We're well ahead of Bushmills. We've got very lucky. I think we mentioned on a call recently, they were the sleeping giant in the industry for a long time, and I think they've awoken. So kind of happy to tell some of my superiors, like, we need to wake up a little bit. These guys are coming, and they've got incredible liquids. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of them, and what they do. Always interesting. You were at some big whiskey shows in the US, and you'd honestly see the person who used to be with Diageo when I was in the States, and if they got asked about Bushmills, they'd say, do you not want to try a Johnny Walker? So I'd be jumping in saying, no, it's a really good liquid, you should try Blackbush. So it felt very strange being at the William Grant table, but your Irishness trying to say, come on, you've got a gem of a whiskey there, why aren't you promoting it more? So
exactly.
The US is still a mammoth to conquer. It'll require a lot of time, but it's still responding really well coming out of COVID a lot versus some other markets. At least, when we look at the sales, they're getting back to business and buying Irish again. So that's good. Other markets are much slower to return. So it's nice to see Irish whiskey will continue to do well in the US, at least for if we have this roaring 20s that we're keep getting told about.
You have you have a big, and I say it's a big company. It is a big company because you've got lots of brands underneath. But William Grant, big company, lots of pedigree brands from Scotland right behind you, and it must be good having that kind of network available to you. But I'm interested. I'm interested in a couple of things. One, I'm interested in the fact that you are involved in the festival. I'm interested in that you see the festival as being something which is important. It's important to Irish whiskey. You've come to the festival with 2 different tastings. I think that's really smart. You've got the core tasting, which looks at your core brands. We've got the rum cask finish in there. We've got a 14-year-old. There's an 18-year-old. There's some really interesting whiskey in that tasting alone. And then I've looked at the warehouse tasting, and I know nothing about that. I really know nothing about it because actually, it's not been bottled up by me personally. I know that it went through the bottling, arrangement, and everyone that has seen it, and has read the detail for it has gone, here, what is this? Some of this stuff looks really, really interesting, really exciting. And I'm trying to hold myself off. I don't want to hear about it. I really don't, because I want to delve into that with yourselves. This is a very, it's a very exciting thing for me because I've been very lucky. I've tasted some great stuff from other distilleries around Ireland who are producing liquid in the last 6 or 7 years, and seeing a journey with a lot of these different brands. But I've not had that with Tullamore. I've not had that experience yet. To see stuff in the background and see stuff coming through. So when someone said to me, what are your tastings you want to go and see? Well, I know there's at least one from the north, and he's about to produce whiskey, and it'll be on the shelves, and that'll be his first whiskey that he's produced. Excited for that. But in the south, I'd be very interested to see what's coming from Tullamore in the warehouse, and what's in the background, what can come from a distillery, which again, as I say, legacy history, but something to look forward to genuinely look forward to. Do you want to tell them what's in it? Do you want to, because I don't think we released that information. I don't think we've told the public anything about it.
Yeah, so I guess you sort of pushed us a little bit on it in a good way, in that you sort of challenged us to say there's a lot of incredible things behind the scenes and you're very quiet on it, which we are. Some of that's purposeful, but it made us think actually it would be interesting to get some thoughts on some of these liquids and what we think are really interesting liquids. So I picked a spectrum of liquids from our different component whiskies. So some new make malt, some of the pot still in the sherry, some experimental cask, a whiskey that we're going to release later this year. So it's not even out yet. They'll be the first people to taste it. For that one, I'm not even going to tell people what it is. I'll let people sort of see if they can guess it, but I'm not actually going to give that away. I don't think I'm allowed. But yeah, so we're definitely delving into the casks. The distillery, at this point, it's 7 years old in the next 2 months. So we're getting there. And finally we'll be able to stand on our own 2 feet. 90-something% of the whiskey coming from Tullamore now is from our distillery and not from previous distilleries. We've obviously had to do that in the past. So it'll be an amazing feeling when we get 100% Tullamore. That'll feel like a very credible space, and the investment we're after putting back in. I don't know any other distillery that's as big for a single brand, because that's all we do. I know Middleton make 20 whiskies and they've lots of different brands, but we're just Tullamore. There's no messing about with gins or anything. It's literally Tullamore Dew is our baby. So
Oh no, I think it's quite smart. I think it's smart, and it's, you've not relied on, you didn't rely on the gin business or the vodka business or the rum business. You didn't rely on that as a way to build the brand. The brand was already there. It's a legacy brand, and having whiskey and having the family behind you, the business behind you, in order for that to happen, that's helped obviously. But yeah, I mean, smart, getting to 90% of production just now for all your own stuff. That's pretty cool. Getting to 100% at some point, like whenever that comes, that'll be awesome. It'll be just another turning point in this, Irish whiskey phenomenon, which is happening right now. We're in periods of record breaking moments.
Absolutely.
I do generally believe that. I do generally believe that we're very lucky. We're probably, I think we're still at the very bottom of a wave, like just about to start. Because if we tick through these distilleries, and tick them off, we're the progression. We've just had, a distillery, further down the road, way down into the and a peninsula somewhere down there, which has just come out with a core product. But we don't need to mention their name, but that's core product, and that to me is a big turning point in Irish whiskey, that we've got one of these new distilleries, core product. It's all theirs. It's all core product. That's what we're going to see as a staple. And then we look at Tullamore, and we're thinking ourselves, listen, lads, you could go anywhere. You could do anything with your products. And you've already shown us that cask management system that we've seen so far. Cider casking, rum casking. We've seen 14-year-old product which has been utilising 4 different casks. We're seeing lots of different product, and we know that you guys can do the business. So having your own product and being able to then just say, listen, you know what, we can be experimental. Of course we can, and we can have a bit of fun here, and everything's going to be ours. That's just 2 distilleries, that the one down the road and yourselves. Mate, there's 30 of them. There's 30 of these coming. So we are only here. Each one of them, they'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. But you're very lucky, I think, at Tullamore to be at the start of that. You're very lucky to be at the start where you're as you say, you're hitting the heights in America in terms of just okay. I mean, you say you're miles behind Jameson, but you're not. And the grand scheme of things, you're ahead of Jameson. In the grand scheme, think about it logically. Jameson's had, years and years and years to perfect what they're doing and to be the market leader and to be pushing the brands. So Jameson, the brand, the Middleton brand, the Redbreast brand, the Powers brand. These brands, they're not legacy brands because they've been continued. These are continuation brands. These are brands that have managed that Redbreast has been continuous. It has just been a continuous brand. The only other branding outside of the IDL spectrum that can talk about that is Bushmills. As a continuous, and yes, Kevin, they are sleeping because they've slept through the last 400 years. But now they've woken up. But there's Tullamore with a specific agenda. You've had this history, but there's been a split. There's been a break that's not been continuous, and it's now being revived. And yet you've managed to place yourself, as I say, I think ahead of Jameson, although not by sales and maybe not by what bars you're in, but you've leaped to a point where, I mean, come on, you're not that far behind. And if you're only going to base it on sales, you've got a problem. I mean, if you're only going to base it on, what pubs you're in, you've got a problem. You should be looking at the bigger picture, like I, as in the consumer, thinking, no, I see Tullamore and I see it. It's visual. It's there. It is Irish whiskey. I think it's got the right message. I think you're doing really well. I do want to say that I'm impressed where you are. And could you ever get beyond Jameson? Well, that'll be up to Jameson, isn't it? Is it not about?
That's not even a goal.
But it's up to these other. Like, it's up to Jameson to make sure that you don't take over them. So we'll, as a consumer, we're going to expect great things from every distillery now because they're pushing the limit. You are pushing. Maybe you don't realize it, but you're going to push these boys, these other distilleries, to do better because you're doing so well.
Yeah, I mean, look, rock and roll isn't just Bruce Springsteen and hip hop isn't just Jay-Z. So that's all we're doing. We're adding another musician to the arena. It's a festival. It's not a one-man show. So that's what all these other distilleries are doing, and they're making Irish whiskey far more interesting. And exactly that. Even the small guys coming through, they're making us challenge ourselves. Are we being innovative enough? We were really hamstrung in the past because we had to get our liquid from a third party. Now we've got a deadly distillery. We've got a cooperage. We've got a bottling plant. We're a single site distillery. You know, we're not messing around bringing trucks up and down the country, any of that crack. So we're getting a lot of things in order. It is a bit slow. It is a bit, I guess we have to be patient. You know, a lot of people have been at me saying, why aren't we seeing more? And why didn't we release a pot still? And you know, we know if we release some of these things at a 4 and a 5 and a 6, people are just going to go, is it as good as a Redbreast? So we want to wait till we're on a line where we can stand up against anything that's out there. So we don't necessarily want to bring out a product that's not where we want it to be. Yes, it can still be really enjoyable and still nice, but we think some of the vintage pot still at Tullamore was always a bit older than that. So therefore, we'd like to bring it to that point and show it at a pinnacle rather than a progression, which is fine. Of course, you can do it the other way around. Teeling have done the whole, let's show you the journey from end to end. And that's just, you know, part of that's a commercial decision. We don't have to do that because we're sitting on selling, you know, 15 million bottles a year. So when you don't have to rely on that, then we can do things the way we want to do it. And to draw the comparison with Middleton, it's on a stock market. They have to be super aggressive. They have to push and keep shareholders happy. It's a very different business model. We have a family who, you know, have very different opinions. It's sort of about protecting the business for the long term. Everything about the distillery is it the right decision for like the next 50 years? You know, if you talk to Glenn, the CEO, that's the question he'll always ask you. Like, I can give you $1 million to do a campaign this year, but if it's not gonna, if it's just a one and done, I don't want to see it. If it's a much bigger thing that's gonna, I'd rather give you 5 million if you're going to do a project that's actually going to create legacy, that's going to create longevity. So we play a much longer term game. And to be fair, our company in Scotland is like the Middleton of Scotland. You know, the big grain distillery, a lot of the rich, what the pot still equivalent being the Balvenie malts and the Glenfiddich malts. They've got really old stock, much older than a lot of the other brands. Not across the board, but in a good sense. So we're leaning into that experience and understanding how they've built the business and bringing that insight to Irish whiskey as well, which is valuable for us.
I would love to see a blend of Tullamore single malt and a Balvenie single malt in a port cask.
That sounds like an infinity bottle project rather than a.
Listen, no, look, there's some lovely comments coming through here. Lovely comments, and do you know what? Actually, just to pick on something you said there about you not doing a pot still. Listen, I think it's refreshing that we have Irish single malt whiskies. I think it's great, and there's no harm to it. And I think they're both very, very important to the whole industry. And I think there's no pressure, though there shouldn't be pressure to come up with pot still at Tullamore Dew, not at all. Connor's saying that he tried some of your 6.5-year-old pot still. So he's saying that you've tried that already at Warford Tasting Society. It was fantastic. There you go. And someone's saying, look, Gareth is saying it's Tullamore Warehouse was an easy choice. Haven't really tried much of their stuff. So what better way to get to know it? And I think that's important, that if you've not been tasting some of the stuff, why not? I know as a whiskey club, in Belfast, we've tried and we've gone through various Tullamores. Very important, I think, to get your bearings on all the different whiskey brands that we have. Just from a bartender point of view, Tully is running neck and neck with Jameson. So Cassandra's based over in America, so she's saying from a bartender's point of view, Tully is running neck and neck with Jameson.
Yeah, in that community, we're a bit favoured, but the college kid who picks up a bottle of whiskey he's not calling Tully, he's going JMO all the way. So
really, do you know what you need to do? You need to I know that the Bushmills have just sponsored the Boston Celtics, yeah, Boston Celtics.
Yeah, we just need to throw 10 million at the wire, yeah.
you need Tullamore Dew right across the back of Notre Dame. We'll be flying. Know what I mean?
That's it. We did the Red Sox actually. What the year they won the World Series? That was pretty cool.
Really?
So we actually did a limited edition Tullamore Dew Red Sox bottle. It's only available in Massachusetts, but I actually couldn't. It's the only Tullamore I don't have. Yeah, super hard. The only people in the distillery who got some were on the bottling line, so that's probably one of the rarest. It's this red label. It looks quite cool. You probably find it with a quick Google.
I'm sure you just have everyone in this call now googling that, going, "I'm going to go
Yeah. Look at all their friends in Boston.
Kevin's going to buy it from me, and we're going to make some money." But no, you so far the products have been great, and I am looking forward to what is coming. I generally am excited for that. But let's explain. I suppose Tullamore, we've got a working distillery, we've got a visitor centre, yes. And how is that working? How is that, Kevin? How does the visitor centre work? What's the options there for people to come and visit the place?
Okay, so I don't know if things have changed in the last sort of 12 months with COVID. So what we are doing is opening up a new distillery experience in October. So we will have one tour. It's for everyone. Everyone becomes a VIP. So everyone will see the warehouse. Everyone will see the full site. They'll pass the cooperage, the grain. They'll get a full end-to-end view, because we don't really think anything like that's out there at the price point we're going to put it at as well. We're doing longer tours, less people. Nothing about it screams money. Already we've sort of accepted this is about getting people who've, so many of our guests, Americans, Germans, Czech, whatever they are, French, they've come a long way and this is their holiday, and to rush them out on a 45-minute tour feels wrong. Some of them have been drinking Tullamore for years, so we're doing like a much longer tour, over 100 minutes for every single person. As I said, everyone's a VIP. That's sort of the angle we're taking, not trying to tier it. And it's like getting on an American Airlines flight and gold, standard, silver, and everyone's about 100 different codes of what you are. So hopefully the experience will be really rich. So I've curated that. We've actually worked with Drinksology, the guys in Belfast, super talented, just amazing to work with. Anyone working on distillery should talk to them about things, because they're just incredible to work with, so passionate, some of the nicest guys I've ever worked with. So it's a really hard project. There's lots of complexity in it, and as I said, they're just great. So next time I'm in Belfast, I'll be calling up and having a few drinks with them.
Oh, good.
The Duke.
They've got a couple. They've worked on a couple of projects, haven't they? And
yeah, Hinch and a few. They've done a few cool ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice to see good lads, and they've got their own stuff. The Drinksology guys have their own Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
Out there. I know they're looking at doing some bottling bonding projects.
Yeah.
Fair play to them. Phoenix and 15 are my favourites so far. Delicious stuff.
That's what I'm gonna have a drink of now.
There you go. Stacey's saying, my buddy just found me a bottle of Phoenix last week. Absolutely loved it. There you go.
Yeah, I call Phoenix the Amy Winehouse, because unfortunately the day she passed away, I went through my hometown and every pub had someone singing an Amy Winehouse song. And when we stopped selling Phoenix, I got emails and questions and complaints. Why did you stop? So it's only when you can't have something that you want more of it. And that's been very true with Phoenix.
There you go. I think there was 2 versions of Phoenix, wasn't there?
Yeah, I have the 2 here actually. So there's a 55%, which is the original. Well, technically there's 3 versions to be really particular. So on the day the distillery opened, there was 2014 bottles released. So it has a gold label over the box. And what essentially it was that we finished it in virgin oak for 3 months on top of and it was just a singular once-off bottling for the distillery opening, and people who were at the distillery would have got like a 5cl mini. And then this was the broader celebration release. So this was something we did for a handful of years, 4 or 5 years. We had the Phoenix, 55% non-chill filtered, a bit more higher pot still content. So it was edging in the direction of what people really liked, without giving a pure pot still release, right? And then the last one was, we had Some people said in some research groups that the 55 was a bit strong, and people were just having one at a bar, and they were like, we'd actually like to see what it is like if we bring it down a little. So we tried a 46%, and I think then we just sent that to a few markets. That was really small scale, so it was in 1 or 2 airports. It was available maybe on an Amazon in Germany or something like that. That mightn't be right, but one of those sort of online retailers. And it was just sort of, we had stock left over. Some people had asked us to try a 46, but all the purists keep coming to me saying I liked it at 55. So no surprises there, but yeah.
Fair enough. Cassandra's saying on her next trip itinerary when she's over, because she'll be visiting and she'll be going to the distillery.
Cassandra, I'll kick you out myself. I'll
she'll
look
appreciate
forward to
it.
having you.
So what are you excited about, Kevin, about the festival? What have your thoughts on the festival? And what's your? Have you seen the lineup? 96 tastings. There's a lot of events on the go. Lots of things happening here in Belfast.
Absolutely.
Does it excite you? Does the festival something like this excite you, Kevin?
Yeah, I think because it's our first time to participate, I haven't got it's not like Whiskey Live where you've had a few years and you know what to expect. So I'm hoping to just enjoy that first time experience that anyone has of something. And, the caliber of people, the spectrum that you have. So it's kind of a candy store for whiskey fans, right? You've got those vintage shops that are in every town, the old swims, sweets, whatever. Like, it's like that. You're going back in time and you can pick an old school Willy Wonka vintage bar, or you can get a modern sweet, whatever. So there's that spectrum of choices there. That tasting with Fionn O'Connor, who only tastes whiskey that's about 50 years old. He won't taste anything younger. Unless it's his own new make.
Yeah, do you know what? We've got a few. So we've got 2 pre-1970s this year. We've got one which includes the old one of the old crocks in it, and you know what? When I cracked that open, it's really nice, that old crock, because it's tied up with a little piece of lace, and the lace is waxed on as well.
Wax sealed, yeah.
And the only way to take it off, I mean, you can cut the lace and leave the wax seal on, but I chose no. I'm going to rip the wax seal off. I'm going to do the whole thing, and then once you've got it, you pull it out. Now, the cork is really strange, the way it kind of sits into the space, and pops out. It kind of leaves a small hole, which is lovely. And, but I tell you something, the smell of that product, unbelievable. The smell of that product alone was just absolutely magical.
The crocks are right. They're such a strange item, though, because internally people hate them and externally people love them.
They're cool. They're absolutely cool. And do you know what? One of the guys in our club specifically, because he knew that we'd opened the crock, had said, "Listen, I need that crock for my bar. I want it to look cool in my bar." I was like, "Do people really want these things?" And then I went online to one of these auction sites, and I noticed that people are actually selling the old crocks, and it's like they're worth 40, 50 quid. I was like, "Lads, what's going on here?" People are buying up crocks.
No, it's always an item, even like in Dublin, and when they clear out people's houses, you get old grannies and granddads who have a few hidden crocks in the drinks cabinet, and invariably you get a message from someone saying, "How much is this worth?" The Dead Rabbit actually have a really cool thing where if you go and you sit in the Dead Rabbit in New York, they give you the equivalent of an appetizer while you're reading the menu, looking in liquid form. So it's a beautiful drink, but they batch it in the Tullamore crocks, and they have them in an ice bath on the bar on the first floor. So it's really nice. It looks really slick. I think they actually put a picture up on their social media there recently. But it's a really cool idea to batch a nice whiskey-based sort of punch or whatever it was that they had sort of conjured. Just a nice way to get people questioning Irish whiskey in somewhere as cool as New York, and everything that goes with that. It's sort of, tell me why it's in a crock. What are those? Where were they used? There's a lot of sort of stories and history behind them.
There is. There's crocks from lots of old distilleries, and it was. I've got some old ones from from Watt's distillery up in Derry.
Yeah, nice. What's lovely.
Yeah, big ones. And I've got so it's the Ultra Connell, crock, which
Yeah.
it's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a flagon, really. It's a flagon.
Yeah.
But, it's like these old bottles that were used, absolutely brilliant. Ceramics are absolutely great.
Locks had one as well.
Locks also, yeah.
But very few do them now. It's not something there. See, this is really high cog. The cost of producing them is quite high, so people margin wise don't like to do them. That's invariably the reason.
You wouldn't go back to it, no?
Well, we never stopped. We still sell crocks to this day.
Oh yeah, you have a modern day crock. Yes.
Yeah. So we kept it. As I said, we.
Am I right in saying it's like darker writing on it? Is that right? Hold on, I'm trying to picture the new one. Go get one. I know you must have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's good. Modern day one. Yeah, a wee bag. Now you can't go wrong with a wee bag, can you?
No, this one. If I can get it out, there we go. So that's the modern one mentions the distillery on the side, so that's how you can tell it's the last, say, last 7 years. Say.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's that was actually a red wine cask finish we did in the visitor center. It's a Californian Cab Sav. We did just to play around with wine cask finishes. Obviously, do a lot of experiments with it, but we haven't released anything big wine yet. So we'll see what comes down the pipeline on that.
I remember last year our 1970s tasting last year we used a Napogue bottling Napogue Castle. Yeah. I think it was
51.
Well, it was an odd version because this year we've got the 1951. The 36-year-old. So we have that one this year. Last year was slightly different. It was a cask strength single cask, which was the third cask. Was it the third cask to be used? And it was very special. Like Finnon, was just like, this is holy grail stuff. I mean, we're touching something that hardly anyone would have had the opportunity to see, because you do see 1951 is a little bit more, it's a little bit more commercialized. The one, I think it was 1950, the one we were looking at, and specifically, so much different taste profile, completely different. But yeah, it's nice to see that. I remember I was reading a message that you'd sent to me, back in 2019, I think it was. And I'd suggested you guys get involved in the festival. And I remember you saying, Paul, we don't have old stock. And I was like, in my head, I was like, relax, I do. Just chill. Do you know what I mean? Don't be worried about it. But, you were honest back then. You said, look, we don't have a lot of old stock. We're slowly moving, into, different types of, projects here and, at the distillery. And I think that was just an honest discussion with yourself, which I thought was really, fair play. And, caveat the whole thing by saying we'll be involved at some point, and I thought, you specifically said, look, I'll be up in Belfast. We'll do some tastings up in Belfast. So, like, I really appreciate that. It's nice to see that happen.
Belfast is one of the only cities I've never done a live tasting in, so I'd like to break that because it's a cracking city. Our head distiller was up there at the weekend. We're in shutdown, so he was able to adventure up there, and it looked very enjoyable.
you definitely have to come up. It is a place to come and have some crack. Kevin, are you doing the tasting for Tullamore? Are you going to be doing it live up here, or are you going to be doing it from the distillery? Are you coming to Belfast?
I'll be doing it from. I won't be live. I'll be online as such. Yeah, virtually.
Listen,
representing.
Do you know what? I think this year we're accepting that there's people that are going to be doing that. What I would say is, and it's really interesting, we've got people flying in from different countries to do this. So people flying in just to come and do it physical. But I think that, I think that we want to caveat everything we're doing by saying, look, we want people to be safe. We want people to feel safe, not just be safe, but feel safe. And like, if if you could, if it's better doing it at home or doing it from the distillery or doing it from wherever. I mean, someone commented the other on saying your couch is really nice. So I mean, clearly you can do it from your, the comfort of your own home. But is it just?
No, I prefer it in person. I prefer it in person. There's no doubt about it. So it's not I despise trying to be charismatic over camera. It's very difficult for me, and I like the challenge in person. But I'm not vaccinated. Our company policy right now is not encouraging travel. We've had a few colleagues around the world pass away with COVID, so it looks really insensitive if I, so all those things combined, it's just easier to go, you know what, there'll be a bigger times and other times to come back, and it's not a million miles away. So
Kevin, 100% agree with you. Hopefully, look, I mean, our plans for next year is to be physical as much as possible, physical, and like we're trying very hard this year to accommodate people in some small crowds, very small crowds, to allow them to come to some tastings, but that's manageable, and we're managing just to do that. I think next year our plans are very, very big. It's very
good. You warn the police before I come up, because we'll need them on standby. I'd say it'll be that.
Oh, do you know what? We have our own private security firm, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. No, we have
there you go.
They'll sort you out. They'll be grand. They'll probably up here. But, no, look. I think it's very, very important that people stay safe. And as I say, we create this environment to stay safe. Are you going to be joined by anyone, Kevin? Are you going to be joined by anyone on the virtual? Is someone else with you?
My whiskey dad, John Quinn, is going to try his best to make an appearance. Awesome. So it'll be funny, because we've often very different opinions on whiskey, and we come at it from different age cohorts that have different viewpoints. So it's funny, because at one point, I think we're meeting in there was a point when John would never have had anything like a whiskey sour and that, and then he's like texting me on a Friday night making whiskey sours, going, what do I need to add, or what shop has Angostura bitters? And now he's like, he thinks he's real cool because he's making cocktails. And equally, I've probably become a little more appreciative of neat whiskey, as opposed to when I would have started out years ago. It was a huge amount of the consumption would have been in mixed drink environments and everything else. So I've actually gone the other way, where I'm probably 90% neat whiskey, 10% mixing.
Kevin, you're a wee bit like myself. I like this. Water, not necessarily from the shop, but I mean, it's okay. You can buy it in Tesco as well, and other big supermarkets. But yeah, water or whiskey. I don't drink tea, don't drink coffee. I tend not to drink fruit drinks. It's water or whiskey.
Yeah.
And or maybe a really, really fancy hot chocolate. You know what I mean, with marshmallows and flakes and things.
Nice.
If you're gonna treat me.
But I'm quite into my Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just. But I do. I mean, I like a whiskey. Any whiskey cocktail really does it for me as well. I'm liking all that. And I like certain cocktails. I'll go out, but I mean, no. I mean, you won't find. I'm a really odd person. I don't drink beer and I don't drink lager. I drink very limited amount of wine. But I'm definitely drawn to those two liquids, water and whiskey. Water is a constant in my life, and the whiskey is just, it loves me so much.
Well, I like the whiskey a lot, obviously, but the other drinks, I more use them as an experimental tool to widen my palate, because I don't want to be too myopic in if I just taste whiskeys. So if I understand flavors that come from Argentinian Malbecs and things like that, I can understand flavor in a wider sense, and hopefully can bring a broader view to what I do at the distillery. So that's part of the purpose, where I've become quite, even with food, I'm sort of being a bit more adventurous with what I try, because I want to understand flavors and how they layer and how they work and how they don't work in every sort of place in which it shows up. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, sometimes my reason for drinking whiskey neat is a bit boring. It's quite like a healthy thing as well, like
you're a health
fanatic, I'm quite obsessed with. Well,
you can flex. You've got the.
I do it probably for mental health reasons and all that, to keep sane, keep being good. If I don't, I get a lot of panic attacks, stuff like that. So I find if I do exercise, it helps alleviate any of that sort of stress. So if I watch whiskey, I've got a shot, like a measure of whiskey has probably less than 70 calories. It's 1 unit of alcohol as opposed to from having pints, the direction that goes. You're taking on a lot of liquid fat, excessive calories. And if you're in the whiskey business and if you want longevity, I'm here 8 years. A lot of ambassadors haven't lasted this long. They've thought it was easy and they've jumped in and not stuck it out. So if you want to, be a John Quinn in it, you sort of have to look after yourself too. If you're going to be planes, trains, automobiles, and this lifestyle, whiskey flights and late nights and everything that comes with that. Sometimes
I think last year at the festival I did 30 something tastings in the space of the 9 days, and I mean,
such a show off. What do you bench though?
Work well. But listen, someone just said here, John Quinn invented cool. Marcus, 100%. Marcus, I know that he did, and he is.
Marcus is a plant. That's John asked him to say that because no one would.
He's a cool character in terms of his persona. I mean, John Quinn there's a dry side to his delivery, which I think is very important. Very, very, very straight, I think, is an important thing.
John is amazing. And one of the best parts of my job is I get to spend more time with John than anyone else, nearly his family, so I appreciate John more than most, but invariably if he's here, I'm going to slag him like hell because that's just how we go.
There's a few people within the industry that sit on they do sit on that maybe pedestal. They sit, there's people that you really should be able to look up to, and they must be up there with, and let's call them out. You've got likes of Billy Layton, or you have, we've got some fantastic people in this industry now that and even, I suppose, we're drawn towards people like Bushmills and IDL. We're drawn to those people because that's who we see a lot of, and a lot of the names, Colin Egan there, now Helma Holland, which is getting some recognition now. People are starting to realise who she is, and fair play. And for all these people that are in those industry, in the industry, John's up there. But it's nice to see, again, it's the recognition from the consumer. I think people are now looking at the people behind the whiskey as much as they're looking sometimes at the whiskey. It's actually really nice to actually have a relationship with a brand ambassador, or your fancy title, the global distillery manager of the tiny people of Leprechaunville. I don't know, whatever that title was.
Chief bottle washer,
yeah, whatever. It's nice to have those relationships, people, so you can, as a consumer, you can buy into the people behind the brand as well. I think that's really nice. There's some brands out there that you'll never get to meet the people who are behind it. You'll never get to experience the people who create the liquid. So it's nice to see someone like John, if John can come along to those tastings and be part of that. It's nice to see that. It's nice when we see the master blenders and the distillers and the people who are there in the background. We don't hear enough about that. One of the things about this festival, and although this festival this year, it's that hybrid event, but it's really virtual, and everything's virtual, and it's difficult to manage the real experience that people want, which is coming together, sharing drinks, sharing food, sharing music and laughter together in a venue, in a physical place and space. But one of the things that this festival wanted to do and is keen on highlighting is this industry. It's not just about the liquid. One thing that gets me, I absolutely love events like Dublin Live. Dublin Live to me is essential. It's essential for the brands. It's essential for consumers to come and have a look at it. But it's a lovely showcase marketplace for people to come and have a look at everything. This festival is different to something like that. This festival is designed to give people lots of different types of masterclass events that they can, choose to fall in and out of. And when it's physical in Belfast, we have those venues that people can come along of an evening and take part in a beautiful whiskey tasting with someone, lovely surroundings, and enjoy that company. And we have this aspiration, I suppose, for the festival is to look at beyond the whiskey. So it's looking at the is looking at and you've got this now at Tullamore, but we're looking at the people who are creating the casks, people who are making that, putting that together. We're looking at the guys who are part of the distribution chain. So we're looking at the guys who go out there and make it happen for retail and make it happen for, the bars and the restaurants. That, we're looking at these people. There's a lot of people who make up the industry. It's going back even further and looking at where, the farmers, the people who are creating crops that we're taking, to get to where we are. There's people who are the sales representatives. There's people who are the guides or the visitor, tour guides, the people who are working in the distilleries. And there's a lot of component parts to the industry rather than just that liquid.
Absolutely, yeah. I always think the unsung heroes often are sales reps. They make sure that Irish whiskey gets on menus and gets sold around the world, and they really drive sales that help us put investments in distilleries, but they're never glorified really like a master blender is, because the romance isn't there because it's selling. But actually, they're putting Tullamore on the map in Japan, Russia, Poland. It's like, we had a call with South Africa today. Like, it astounds me how big some of these markets are and how much they love Irish whiskey. Like, South Africa's a really interesting market for us. Early days, but I love seeing that, the reps that are out there on the ground promoting an Irish whiskey from a small town in the middle of Ireland. It's just fascinating to see the passion that they have for it.
Yeah, and it's okay to create them. It's okay to create the liquid. We can do that. We can do that in the distillery, and we've created it. But there are so many component parts, and sometimes a consumer, we just go into the bar and we just order the drink and we drink it, and there's not a lot of thought into how it got there, how we physically got there, and I know some people criticize the cost of whiskey. Sometimes they think, oh, that's quite expensive, or why am I paying such an amount? And I always look at it and think just about like any other product and any other kind of thing that, I go, right, well, it costs X, probably because of all these component parts. There's a lot of things that happen for it to get to where it is,
Yeah, I think whiskey's the one product you can't give out about the price.
No,
unless you're buying, silly stuff. But anything within the Tullamore range, if you look, like I visited our bodegas out in Spain. We went to see Antonio Paez and just near San Luca de Barrameda in Jerez. When I saw the cost of sherry casks, I said that was ridiculous. And then I saw the work that they do. They air dry the wood for 18 months. They fill it with sherry for 2 years, and then they send us the liquid. I've never seen such perfection attached to what they do. And after I come out and I jokingly said to the owner, you undercharge us for them, as in when I understood all the work that went into making it. And that's one tiny component of our process. When you add on, particularly in Ireland, the duty and things like that, I absolutely don't think there's anything like whiskey. The time, the effort that goes into it, the energy. It's go complain about something else. Go complain about €350 flat whites. Look at the margins on that and your pizza you're having in pints.
That's probably one of the best. That's probably definitely one of the best. That's the way I look at it. And actually, I know Connor's just fucking popped up the point there. People complain about the cost of whiskies or vodka and gin drinkers, and even then, my issue is actually sometimes the cost of one of these white liquids, clear, liquids that we could maybe make very quickly, and doesn't.
Let's not go there. I'll just get upset giving out about gin, and I sound like a grumpy man.
No, but it's not. Now, hold on. I'm not saying that. There's a lot of product out there. You talked about the coffees and the teas that people go and buy. And look, at the moment, in some of my local places that I might be going frequent for food, hopefully they're not listening to me. But sometimes they charge me too much money for a cup of tea, and I'm like, lads, I could go and get a nice shot of whiskey for this, and that's not. But I'm looking at it going, this is the component part here, everything we're getting from it. So, I want to celebrate whiskey, not just the substance, not just the the great liquid that it is. I want to celebrate everything behind it. And Irish whiskey at the moment needs that, and needs that support and love. So that the festival, although at the moment we're seeing lots of tastings, we're very keen on looking at the whole thing. We want to see the whole thing. And next year we've got plans specifically to allow people to experience different parts of the process. We want to see people doing some physical stuff and getting involved, and ideally working with a cooperage and letting people in Belfast try to create their own casks and putting things together and see what we can do.
Use a finger, sign a few.
You know what? I've seen people make really ballsy mistakes with that. And if William Stafford's watching at Hinch, ha ha ha, you were absolutely awful trying to do your own cast. And William's a good lad. But there's lots of parts to the festival, But yeah,
absolutely. Even I was going to say, just our cooperage, we obviously hired 2 apprentice coopers, young lads, and one of the guys, his dad works in the bottling, so he started only because he was brought because of 3 or 4 years ago. Bear in mind, he's only 18, so maybe 4 years ago, he was at a family day at the distillery with his dad, and he saw we had some coopers doing a demo, and he was like, I want to do that. 4 years later, well, he worked in the bottling hall briefly, but now he's an apprentice cooper. So he'll be a future head cooper at the distillery, all because he saw someone doing it and said, I want to do that. And now he's one of a handful of people in the country. So I kind of love that. It's deadly to see, just like a really pure passion. And he's so anti, marketing, and the way he says anything, he just, I just like barrels. I like doing things with my hands. He's not trying to curate flavor with the wood. He just likes working with his hands. He works with his best friend in the cooperage, and hopefully we'll get to show you someday.
But it's nearly a job for them, isn't it?
If they do, as long if they want it to be, absolutely. And I think, particularly one guy I'm talking about, Corey, he's a homebird. He doesn't want to go around the world, which, sometimes you get a 21-year-old who wants to go to Bali and do all the other things, and you get other guys who are homebirds. So we've got 2 young guys. I'd say one is more likely to stay in the long term, but who knows? Maybe another distillery will get to have him on their journey as his next. If he wants a new place to work, a new brand, maybe he'll move to a different city, etc. So,
all part of it. And I'll happily go to Bali if you're offering tickets. I'll go anywhere.
Do a yoga retreat.
I'll create a whiskey festival in Bali.
There you go.
Bali Whiskey Week.
I'll tell my bosses it's very important that I go to this festival.
That's the way to do it. Here, listen, the guys over at Exploring English Whiskey Festival. So there's an English Whiskey Festival taking place later on in the year. I'm very supportive. I'm not a precious person. I called out, Dublin Live. I'm happy that to support Dublin Live, and I think they've got something called Celtic Whiskey Fest or something. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure I'm excited to see.
Yeah, in November. Yeah.
But these guys over in England specifically are looking at the English whiskey industry and supporting the English whiskey. So listen, I'm glad that you're excited about our festival, but I'm very excited about all these up and coming emerging, markets and different industry, parts of the industry, whiskey industry. Here in Ireland, I think we are genuinely at the very bottom of a wave, and I think that actually we're probably about, and you think you're so far behind Jameson, but I think we're about 30 years behind, Jameson and Bushmills. I think we're a long, long way behind these guys. I mean, for Bushmills, genuinely, and let's just call this one out, for Bushmills to release a 30-year-old the other month, that airport exclusive 30-year-old bottling for the Causeway collection, that for 400 years, that's their oldest expression they've ever put out. Mate, that just doesn't add up. It just, for me, it just doesn't add up. So it's genuinely scary. If that's, I think we're 30 years away. We're 30 years away. Tullamore's 30 years away from that.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be the old man in the pub saying I was there the day Tullamore became 100% Tullamore, and that'll
Damn right
be
you will.
a super. I'll be they'll be like annoyed of me going, "Don't talk to that old man down the end of the bar. He just keeps going on about how great this moment that no one cares about, you know." But that'll be.
I love that thought. That's a lovely thought.
Mm.
You know, not that I want you to be old, but the lovely thought of like you being old and then genuinely being there. You know, yeah, that was, you know, and I actually think that, you know, again, first of all, the world is getting bigger in terms of, you know, people, but it's getting smaller in terms of product being able to move around and get to places. It's also been consumed. Whiskey is now being consumed at greater speed, you know, in different parts of the world, like literally quicker. So you know you're able to produce X, but actually, you know, we're drinking XX, you know, so we're needing more of it, you know, sooner. And I am genuinely one of these people who think that we don't have enough liquid in Ireland yet. I still think we don't have enough coming through.
Have you not seen the Bushmills warehouses, though?
No, but that's different. But even Bushmills would have a problem if, you know, if parts of Asia came in and said, because remember, Bushmills have not broken into China properly. If China comes knocking at the Bushmills door and says, "We really do like your product, thank you very much, can we take X?" and they'll go, "All right, we've got 7 sheds up there. Wait a minute. If we give you X, that's going to take away 4 sheds." There's a problem with the demand in some of these countries. You give them the opportunity to take your product. You better be ready to give it to them. And I say this about all the really small distilleries. Like they're like, "Oh, you know, if we got into this market or that market," I'm like, "Listen, lads, here, you work away. You know, this is not the way that works. You get into that market and you lose your product because the demand for your product will go through the roof if you know if you touch lucky. And at that point, can you satisfy that demand? Ask yourself that question. Oh, I'm telling you, no, you can't. Not at the moment. And I think that's why we're 30 years away from seeing us in that position where we can actually fulfill orders around the world, fulfill potential.
I hope you're right. I like your optimism, but we definitely do a lot of whiskey stock forecasting. We definitely hedge our bets and would put a lot more into than we need just in case, because we know we can play a long game and we're not constricted by other people financially with how much they can produce in a year. I would be a bit concerned though, because like China, like anything, you have to build the business from the ground up, and China wouldn't pay for my car in Irish whiskey sales. It's just not there yet. We have a long way to go, and you know, right now they don't know where Ireland is on a map. I mean, that's one thing you have to. I guess I'm coming at it from a different perspective too, and I love your optimism because it's giving me more of a sense to review how I think. But you know, we did a research project of name 10 Irish whiskies in Poland, and like 7 of them were Scotch. In the US, the feedback of the report that came back this week was Tullamore. They didn't even know Tullamore was a town. You know, so we actually sometimes assume people know more about our brands than they do, and also we think we're bigger than we are. And actually, you know, we're a speck. We're a speck at the moment, and that's where I sense you're right in the sense where we're going to be in 30 years is going to be entirely different. But I really think it's a much more slower, gradual. It's door to door. It's bar to bar. It's you know, Irish whiskey in India or China or you know, some of these isn't going to just change overnight. It'll be a really gradual process as brands look for new markets. We don't all rely on the US because we can't have 39 distilleries all thinking the US is going to be their gold mine. We do need to spread where we target around the world. So that's actually where I'm interested, where our Irish whiskey will boom next. Will it be Latin America? Will it be Africa? Or will it be Asia? I'm curious where you think.
I think there's a big demand, and I say a big demand, but I mean, the conversations I've had, and look, COVID has managed to, again, shrink the world. It's just shrunk the world because you can communicate, you know, through the internet, and it's just not going out the house and not having to interact with people who sometimes I like them, maybe I don't like them. But speaking online with people, you get lots of conversations with lots of different people. And actually a lot of conversations I've had recently are from, in the whiskey world, or people interested in whiskey, are from Argentina, they're from Mexico, they're from, funnily enough, actually Spain. I wasn't really sure that Spanish people were really into Irish whiskey, but they are, and Australia, and seeing those conversations, that's what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing that, when people are communicating with us, and I'm really excited by that. But I think I look at things that are even more basic than this. It's just about populace, and as soon as populace starts to they start to buy into a product, as soon as they get the taste of something, could be anything, could be a chocolate biscuit, it could be a packet of crisps, it could be whatever it is. And in this case, we're talking about a whiskey, and if the whiskey that was put in front of them was a Tullamore Dew, and they like it, and that is then soaked up by a fifth, or a 0.5% of the consumer. All of a sudden, Tullamore's, booming in one little part of the world, and so I don't think anyone needs to focus their attention directly on America. America's a lovely place to go and build a brand, and I think it still takes time. It's nice that we have such a, and I say we as if I'm an Irishman, but the Irish diaspora is huge around the world in various countries, and that's why America does well, and that's why products go hand in hand. Irish products go hand in hand in Canada and America and Australia because of that diaspora. But
it's a complex. In the 1950s, there was groups of Irish whiskey producers going to New York on trade trips, so they were putting in the groundwork. There was a huge amount of really clever marketing that went in there. When you mentioned Mexico, there's 5 million cases of Scotch, so they have a love of whiskey already. We know that, but Irish whiskey isn't something they're familiar with. Spain, I guess that's the other thing. Like we obviously sell, our business as William Grant sell a lot of products in Spain, but Irish whiskey, just from the market, the commercial, they're just saying it isn't there. So it doesn't make sense to focus on that market, because although you anecdotally, you are the only person, right, who are going to know the people who are interested. Yes. But overall, it just, if you look at that versus an Eastern European country that seems to get way more involved with whiskey, and the climate suits more that style, as in the Spanish love their gin, they love their beer, they love their wine, but whiskey culturally isn't that big. As in, go to Poland, whiskey culturally now is just growing astronomically. Like Poland is our biggest success story, I think, at the moment. So that's something I didn't expect. Now then, you've got 250,000 Polish people living in Ireland, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe you've got the Polish equivalent of a diaspora here, and the interconnection of cultures.
Turn the bottles backwards and saying, lads, this is good shit. This is good.
I always tell guests who come to the distillery, I say, what's the biggest spoken language in Ireland? And then obviously English, and they sort of assume Irish is the second one. I'm telling them Polish, and they sort of have to think twice about it. And it's a strange one that we probably haven't acknowledged. But the interconnection cultures.
And what about Russia? How's the Russian market for yourselves? Good? Yeah,
Russia's huge. Yeah, it's really difficult based on the exchange rate and the rubles, just what's happening there. We have to consider that in terms of our value proposition versus what's available in the market. You have to watch counterfeit. But it is a substantial market. I guess the margin in the market isn't as good as other markets because of their economic situation. Their purchasing power isn't as good as other countries. That would apply to Spain too. So some of these other countries you can sell lots but not make a lot of money in. So that's part of the reason the US is a good market. There's a good purchasing power there. So they're all the things you have to consider. But Russia and Poland are both in the top 6 markets in the world for Tullamore.
Wow. There's a couple of points that I want to bring up here. Kevin, how many years before you reach 100% production? You did mention you're close to it. Do you have an amount of years potentially?
I mean, being honest, to Mark's question, like we have obviously 12 and 14, 18-year-old liquids. So arguably it'll be 18 years from when the distillery, opened in 2014 until we're 100% for some of the age variants. But with the Tullamore original, I'd say the next 12 to 18 months will be 100%.
Wow.
So that's very exciting. And Marcus has been there. He knows the place very well. So
Connor was just coming back, and he was just talking about we're talking about the under their own name of that Northern Antrim distillery. Yeah, there is a 37-year-old out there, but it's not under that branding. There are older bottlings under other people's names.
Yeah, like with Tully, there's like William Napier, 44-year-old, and there's all that type of stuff, which is really cool to taste. There used to be a bar in Temple Bar that had an open bottle and was selling shots for, I think it was 18 quid. I remember buying a few shots and putting them in bottles I wanted to tell someone at the time it was the oldest age statement pot still I think I could find pre some of the stuff Middleton have released since then.
Yeah, that William Napier is an interesting one, because there was a debate as to whether or not, and I know it says on the, actually, does it say on the labels that it gives reference to Tullamore, doesn't it?
Yeah, it says from the Tullamore distillery, distilled at the Tullamore distillery.
But it is interesting to note that Napier also bottled a lot of Scotch.
Yeah,
and you know there was a bit of bastardizing between whether or not it was Scotch or Irish in the bottles. So yes. But I haven't tasted the 44. We were going to look at doing a tasting this year. We probably will do next year's pre-1970s. We'll probably do a 44 Napier. It's nice to, for me, it's just nice to hark back and have a look at these products.
Yeah.
There's
I had heard about it for years, so that's why I really wanted to taste it, and I was just ecstatic to get an opportunity, because I haven't really seen it in recent times. The last 3 or 4 years, I haven't really seen a lot of it. But yeah, it's funny what you're saying with the Irish and the Scotch, one inside the other. It sounds like the cocaine catch today in Ireland, hidden in the coal. Is that what you're saying? We were the cocaine hidden in the other way around.
Well, I mean, I actually purchased a bottle the other day, because here in Northern, that's a different thing. Northern, basically, what you have a lot of testament to this is you had a lot of different bars, just like in the South. You had a lot of bars that would bottle up, Jameson, and you would have a lot of bars that are bottling up lots of different products. Maybe it was coming from Powers, or maybe it's coming from, some of the distilleries elsewhere. And there's a company down in Newry. So Thompson's of Newry, or the Thompson's label, but they were selling Scotch. It was labelled Scotch, but from Newry, and why would they be doing that? You know what I mean? Why? Or were they making Irish whiskey but calling it Scotch? Do you know what I mean?
Because Scotch was what was selling, right?
It's because Scotch was selling, and if you could replicate a similar type of tasting liquid, and other brands out there like Dunville, like the Coleraine stuff, and all these other ones, be it Mitchell's or be it anyone that kind of age and that kind of era, they were creating things that would sell. And Dunville's was selling Scotch. They weren't just selling Irish whiskey; they were selling Scotch whiskey as well.
I just thought because of some of the flavors in the William Napier was akin to some of the other whiskies from that era of the distillery. It felt like it was from Irish, but maybe who knows?
Well, I think there's definitely whiskies that if I get to taste the 44, I'll be able to tell you 100%, because I'm so close to tasting ones of that ilk, that age from
exactly.
the distillery.
And I think it's very much aligned with that.
We'll be able to do that. Oh, no, exciting. Shamini loves your hoodie. There you go. She loves it. She's looking forward to opening her 14-year-old.
Oh, lovely.
We have to stop looking into the future, dial it back to 25 years, because apparently Martin McHugh might not be here, but of course he will be. Martin, just relax. 30 years, no problem. Do you know what I mean? But look, Kevin, I've had some crack. Let's pop back up. I've had some crack with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
I'm excited about having you on for the festival. The fact that we'll be doing it virtual. Are you going to do it virtually? Where are you going to do it from? Are you going to be? Where can we see you from? Are you going to do it from here, from the house? Or are you going to do it from?
So one might be from a bar and one might be from a distillery, just because one's on a Sunday. So I don't know if the distillery will be open at the part I want to get into, but I'll have to figure that one out. But I'm excited. Yeah, look, the liquids, as I said, the range tasting is great, because there's a lot of people out there who might drink Tullamore as their Friday night drink, but they've never actually had the range. And obviously, we've got one or two little interesting whiskies in that tasting, the old Bonded Warehouse, which you can't get anymore. So that's quite a cool liquid to try. Probably would have been the inspiration for a lot of the Phoenix variants that came thereafter. And then obviously the casks one is really for people who maybe I think might know a lot about Tullamore already and really want to see, they're passionate about, they want to see what's coming next. So I think there's gems there.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not for everyone. I know that like some of the liquids are very strong. Obviously the new make I put in straight off the still, so it's pretty potent. So some people are gonna think that's too intense, but hopefully it'll just give you a sense of what we're producing, what we're looking from a sensory perspective at. And yeah, it's probably the first time we'll do a full tasting that's all the interesting things happening behind the scenes in Tullamore. So from that perspective, I'm excited to get feedback, and yeah, to just have that opportunity to taste and feel, just like you guys, I feel lucky when I'm tasting stuff that the guys in the bottling haven't tasted this. A lot of the maintenance team in the distillery, the guys who fill the casks, okay, unless they're dipping the finger in, a lot of guys won't actually have tasted. So sometimes my fellow guys in the distillery are jealous because they haven't tasted some of these liquids, and you guys are getting to, which is kind of strange. At the same time, you want to make sure a lot of the guys in the distillery do, but sometimes they don't. So feel very lucky, I guess, if you're on that tasting.
Thank you. Well, I feel blessed that you're going to do it at all. So thank you very much, Kevin. Evening, thank you very much. And listen, Sláinte to everyone who joined us. I really appreciate you all coming on tonight. Great crack. And sure, we'll see you very soon. Apparently 90-something hours to go. Like, really, it's going to go like that. All right, listen, thank you very much. Cheers.